What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Selkirk University, your home for product education, comparisons, tips, and really just all things Selkirk. Now in today's video, we're going to go over paddle weight, specifically the three different types of paddle weight or ways to measure paddle weight. That's static weight, swing weight, and twist weight. We'll discuss kind of the pros and cons or the advantages or disadvantages to having a higher or lower weight in these three categories and kind of how that overall affects your gameplay so that you know what's the best paddle to purchase for you. Side note, over at Selkirk.com and SelkirkLabs.com, we're now including measurements like swing weight and twist weight, not just static weight, so that you know what's the best paddle for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now starting off with static weight. Now this is the most simple one. It is basically just what does the paddle weigh when it's at rest? So you could measure this by throwing that paddle on a scale and seeing what does it weigh out of the box. Now this can kind of serve as a baseline weight, and your static weight will affect kind of how that paddle feels, but maybe not as much as the next two I'm gonna discuss. When it comes to static weight on a scale, anything that's about 7.7 to 7.6 ounces or below would be kind of considered on the lighter side. Anything that's about 8.3 to 8.4 ounces would be considered kind of on the heavier side. And understanding kind of how much your paddle weighs out of the box can be a good baseline in kind of understanding how much overall weight you could add to your paddle if you wanted to apply tungsten or lead tape. In general, adding weight to your paddle has its pros and cons, and we'll kind of reference that later in the video. I do have a specific video I've made on that if you're interested. I'll leave it in the description below. Now let's kind of get into swing weight. Now a good way to understand swing weight would be to think of the concept of a hammer or swinging a hammer. If you were to hold that hammer at the base of the handle and move it up and down, it's going to feel pretty heavy in your hands as all of that weight is kind of in the head of the hammer. But if you were to take that same hammer and flip it upside down, holding the hammer side with the handle side up, now, even though that hammer has the same static weight, it's going to feel a lot lighter in your hands as you move it because of the weight distribution. So in general, when we're talking about swing weight, paddles that have more weight towards the head or are more head heavy boast a higher swing weight. But what are kind of some of the pros and cons? When you have a higher swing weight, it can create one, more power. Two, it can kind of move that sweet spot up a little bit if you want kind of extended reach. And three, it can kind of help you plow through your drives or ground strokes or serves and really kind of have that crisp feeling. But when you have a higher swing weight, going back to the hammer analogy, it's just going to feel slower in your hands and you're really gonna lose some in terms of hand speed and maneuverability. When it comes to measuring swing weight, we use these kind of dynamic machines that measure the paddle while it's in motion. And we do this by kind of multiplying kilograms by centimeters squared, but I don't wanna bore you with kind of the science of it. What you kind of need to know is the scale of this system or kind of how it's measured. Now, swing weight is typically measured on a scale from about 100 to 140. So anything closer to 100 is going to have a very low swing weight, making it quicker in your hands. But again, you're gonna kind of sacrifice some of that power or pop that you might receive or kind of some of that plow through effect on your ground strokes. But a low swing weight is very appealing to a lot of people as the game of pickleball continues to get more and more fast and hand speed is very important. If you have a swing weight near the 140s, well, now that's a very high swing weight. So the paddle is going to feel a lot slower in terms of that front to back movement, but you're gonna have some of that increased power effect. Now let's move on to twist weight. Now this is one of my favorite measurements and I'll tell you why. Understanding twist weight has a lot to do with the feeling of mishitting the ball or kind of the size of the sweet spot. If you were to think of your paddle as having an axis down the center point, twist weight would be the rotation around that axis point. You could also think about this as rotating the paddle in your hands this way, where swing weight would be more front to back. Now, when it comes to the scale or how you measure twist weight, this is typically measured on a scale of 5 to 8. So any paddle that has a twist weight closer to 5 is going to be on the lighter end. in terms of twist weight. And any paddle that gets up to the 7s or 8s is gonna feel very slow, but it could feel pretty stable in your hands. Like I mentioned before, we're starting to include these measurements at Selkirk.com and SelkirkLabs.com so that you really know what you're purchasing and know what to expect from your paddle. Understanding static weight can really help you in terms of how much overall weight you could add to your paddle if you wanted to add tungsten or lead tape. And understanding twist weight and swing weight can really help you understand where to place that weight on your paddle. Well guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions in regards to this breakdown of static weight, swing weight versus twist weight, please leave them in the comments below. I'll be sure to try to answer them. Or if you have any ideas for future videos, you can leave those in the comments below as well. I'll see you on the next one.